So what is the totality of tarot? I'm going to give you my definition in a minute, but before, let's explore what there is in tarot and how we see it all. For most people, there's thousands and thousands of tarot decks out there, and which one to choose. There's also the meanings of each tarot card, and people get upset and worried because they can't remember what the meanings are. And then, of course, you add in the reverse meanings as well. We have all the symbolism and symbology that is associated with the tarot cards, the associations of with different decks and how the cards work together. There's the systems that I use of card counting, elemental dignities, card pairing, and the whole system of the opening of the key spread. There's all these kind of systems of tarot associated with various people living and dead. So, for example, there's the methods of Paul Foster Case, Dian Fortune, Arthur Edward Waite, Aleister Crowley, the Golden Dawn, the OTO, the Argentium Astrum. There's all the systems of philosophy, religion, mysticism, and magic, and shamanism, and all these other kinds of modalities and ways of thinking that have been symbolized, represented, and captured in various tarot decks over the last century or so. So I think those are the main kind of things, I guess, and anything else you can think of too that covers the every kind of tarot technique that we have and way of looking at tarot as well. And people come up with new systems and ideas about it too. So I'm including all of those things in the totality of the tarot. But for me, that totality of the tarot, which I've just sort of mentioned, all those systems of divination and the tarot spreads as well, if they got them, the number of different tarot spreads and how different positions mean different things, including all those things, including the ones we don't know about necessarily. You may think that encompasses what the tarot is, but I would say that if you think that's 90% of the tarot, I would say that's wrong. If you said 80%, I was wrong. If you went down to 60, I would say it's too high. 40, no, 20, 10, 5%. It's even less than that. It's not even 1%, I would say. And we just get down to fractions of 1%. And how can I say that? How can I justify that? And the answer is very simple. We're going to look at some basic mathematics of using the tarot. And you'll see that there's something much more fantastic, extraordinary, and impossible to understand that's going on. So let's do the math, as the Americans say. And here's the equation. That's it. It says 78 with an exclamation mark. And what does that mean? If you're a mathematician, you'll know already, and you'll be thinking, oh my God. But for us, lesser mathematicians or people who don't care about mathematics very much, what does 78 with an exclamation mark mean? It actually means factorial 78, and it's a way mathematicians use to describe the number of possible permutations of any set of objects. We use this in particular. Factorials is the system that's used to tell you the odds of winning the national lottery out of picking 6 balls or 7 balls out of 49. And for tarot, it would be the number. There are 78 cards, so it's factorial 78. And factorial 78 means, so if you start from the first card, we have 1 card, and then we have the second card, and that's a permutation. So we multiply those two together to come. 1 times 2 is 2. So there's 2 permutations of 2 cards times 3. The card, that's 3. 1 times 2 times 3. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Then we have a 4th card. 4 times 6 is 24. So suddenly we're starting to see the numbers grow. And you might think, well, maybe 78, factorial 78 gets a few million, 100 million maybe, but you would be wrong. The number that 78 factorial comes to is massive. I've got it written down here. It comes to 1.13242812 times 10 to the 115. What that means is that number 1.3242812 has 115 zeros after it. I doubt your computer or calculator can actually do the maths on it, so the best thing to do is go to Google and type in 78 exclamation mark, and it'll give you that number. How big is it? Well, the nearest number that makes any sense, and that doesn't mean very much, is a googol. Not Google. There's a story that Google is actually a misspelling of Google. A googol is 10 to the power of 100. So that's 10 with 100 zeros. That number, if you go to Wikipedia and Google for and search on Wikipedia for googol, it's a number that's vast and has no particular meaning except to tell you that it's vast, and there's nothing that kind of compares to it. There isn't anything within that amounts to a googol. So we have the 78 cards. The number of permutations of those 78 cards is a googol is 15 is many times bigger than a googol. It's an incredibly large number. It's unimaginably large. If we had, there's 6.5 billion people in the world, and the tarot's been going for 200 years. So if those 6.5 billion people, men, women and children, were doing a tarot reading every second, which is impossible, and we did that for 200 years, we wouldn't be scratching the surface of the number of permutations of the tarot cards that are possible. It's when we think in this terms of that number of potential meanings, what is the importance of the divinatory meanings? What's the importance of the order of the cards? Because if you shuffle the cards, only once in all that number will the cards come out in exactly the right order. So people get upset about whether they show the Fool at the beginning or the end of the 22 major arcana, or is the universe at the beginning or the end. All these things are irrelevant. Meanings become irrelevant. So why do we bother with meanings? We still need them. Reversals. If we add reversals into there, then we'd have to sort of multiply that 1.3242812 times 10 to the 115. We'd have to double it effectively. It's meaningless. What would you do with that number of cards? Interpretations, it's impossible. So one of the ways we get round these things is we use less cards. And the way we use less cards is we use a tarot spread. And the most popular tarot spread, of course, is Celtic cross spread. Now, how many permutations do you think there are of any 10 cards on the positions of a Celtic cross spread? So we know that we multiply 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7 times 8 times 9 times 10. And the answer comes to 3,628,800. So for any 10 cards for Celtic cross spreading in all positions, there are 3,628,800 permutations of those 10 cards in those positions. I wrote a book recently with Kath Chapman called Beyond the Celtic Cross, and in that we analysed one spread, the basic 10 set of cards. We had a couple into extra sort of things. We spent the whole book just analysing those cards. It's a fantastic number. It's impossible. And where would we go from here? So how does tarot work? What is going on? Clearly tarot does work. It works fantastically well, and I wouldn't for 1 minute tell you not to bother learning divinatory meanings of the cards. But just remember, when you sit there and your mind goes blank and you can't think of the meaning of the cards, what's going on is that you're looking at the potentiality of those billions upon billions of 10 to 115 zeros has thrown up in that moment in time for you to do that reading for that person. You have infinite possibilities to all intents and all intents and purposes, to open that person's life up. So there's nothing that can't be done. There's nothing that isn't in tarot. You don't need more tarot decks. You don't need more tarot interpretations. Because with that number of 1.132422812 times 10 to 115, and each card, you gave each card 3 meanings, you'd have to multiply that number by 3. And if you do that, it's just meaningless. It's just really meaningless. So that's why we use tarot spreads or something like that. So just be alive, be open to something that is extraordinary number, which is beyond anything anyone can comprehend. We have no idea, no one has, what this number looks like. So carry on reading, use the Celtic crossbred, use elemental dignities or the opening of the key, or card counting. We can throw in astrology in with it as well. So there is just this incredible abstraction of silver-shaped consciousness, infinite potential, unlimited possibilities that we have in this tiny tarot deck. There we are. Those 78 cards. There is 1.324812 times 10 to the 115 zeros of permutations in your hands. You're never going to run out of ideas or opportunities. So keep on at it, keep on learning, and just remember that whatever you think you've learnt about tarot, you're barely scratching the surface.